Misty morning, clouds in the sky. Without warning, a wizard walks by.
Thirsty and miserable, you drop to the floor. You drink till you can't even see anymore. Thirsty and miserable, always wanting more. Thirsty and miserable, always wanting more. Yeah! My brother wants a ride to the liquor store. You pity him for what he wants it for. Thirsty and miserable, always wanting more. Thirsty and miserable, always wanting more. It's 1:30 and we're all getting nervous. There's no corner to do. There's not enough for the last of us. Thirsty and miserable, always wanting more. Thirsty and miserable, always wanting more.
Good evening, folks. It's the Halloween special. And tonight, for those of you who have showed up early, welcome. I hope you can hear me. Can you give me some feedback? Can you hear me okay? Please let me know if you can hear me okay. Leave a comment if you can hear me okay. Tonight, if you showed up early, we are doing some unboxing. Sounds great, says Chris. Thank you so much. And thank you, Cynthia, for showing up tonight early. We're going to be doing an unboxing tonight. 2 unboxings before the show. First unboxing comes from Halifax, a very faraway planet that I have not yet destroyed with the Force. Let us open up the Halifax and see what is inside, shall we? Happy Halloween! It is not as easy to open as it looks, but one must once in a while use their lightsaber. Daniel's does paint. Oh, there's a surprise in here. Oh, this is awesome. Okay. So I was expecting one thing. I was expecting this here. Now, War and Sin, Nova Scotia, my friend. War and Sin actually is, there's Sin right there. This is a great album that I've been enjoying on my iTunes, but now I have a physical CD, War and Sin, The War Within. This album cover was decided on long before Iron Maiden released their artwork for their new album, but I didn't just get this CD. looks like I was given a worn sin shirt. Can you see that? Yes, you can. How's that? How's that? This will be worn on the next episode of the LeBrain Train. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Greg. His name is Warren, right? The other fella. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I will say this, that this is a varied album, has a variety of different metal stylings, but everything on here rocks. I'm very happy to have this. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. I will be reviewing this at some point in the future. Now, the second parcel, you know what? I'm having trouble breathing in here. But give me a second here. Everything is more difficult while wearing this helmet, so hopefully I don't cut myself opening this. Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to reviewing the album. And Praying Mantis, I was just listening to Praying Mantis the other day. Yeah, well, buddy, every voice I do is basically the same voice. It ends up becoming a variation of the same thing. So anyway, I'm going to try to open this other box, which is from a friend of the show, from Aaron. Keeps me alive, Aaron. This is a parcel from him. This is so much harder to do with a helmet on. There we go. Okay. So he is safely bubble wrapped. Whatever is inside here. And as usual, some musical treasures. Oh, wow. Okay, so this goes with what I'm wearing tonight. He got me the CD single for Jedi Rocks is not a great tune, but these are cool looking singles. Look at that, eh? That clear single. So thoughtful. I know Rob Daniels knows exactly what this is. He probably has a copy himself. Oh, man. Oh, Vixen. I've never owned this album before. Cool. That's kind of a essential hair metal centerpiece, is it not? What is this? Oh, fuck! I just saw Guitar Zeus on Twitter today. It's like the 30th anniversary or something like that. Tony, the bass player. I can't see. Tony Franklin was tweeting about this today. Carmine Appice, Guitar Zeus. Wow, this is weird. So much synchronicity happening here. What is this? Firehouse. I don't have this. What is this? Oh, actually, I don't have this. Don Dawkins produced this. Wow. This is Aaron. I hope you're watching. And the Trues. I don't have this. There's a note, of course, in case you didn't have these. This guy, I swear to God, he is clairvoyant. I swear to God. Wow. That is wild. Thanks, Aaron. And thank you, Greg. I'm going to remove my helmet. So I'm going to play the LeBrain Train intro video while I remove this helmet because it's hard to breathe. And I think we do not need the helmet for a horror theme tonight, which is what we are doing tonight on Cinco de Listo. We are doing horror films. So what I really wanted to do was get a good screenshot from Marco of Vader wearing the Contrarian shirt. So there's the screenshot. 3, 2, 1, boom. Got you for Marco. All right, so I'm going to play a tune and get this helmet off before I... yeah. Let's do some Maxi Axe.
Loader. Let's go.
You know I gotta get around. I gotta
Nice. It was a hybrid.
Damn, I love that song. That was Pygmy Blow Dart by Max the Axe, and I play so much Max the Axe on this show that they may as well be the house band at this point. But damn, I love that tune. Sincerely. I would say the same thing, even if the singer of the band wasn't one of my best friends, who actually is one of my co-hosts this evening, along with a couple other guys, that if they give me the thumbs up and let me know that they're good to go, I'm going to run the theme tune and bring them on. So Eric, if you are good, just give me a thumbs up. Yep, he's good. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Friday, October 29th horror movie special edition of the LeBrain Train.
Ticket to anywhere and a glazed donut to go. All aboard.
Hey, fellas. Hello. Robert, everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Fine.
How about me?
Yeah, I can today. Better than last time.
Robert, how is Gimli Cat this evening?
He is furry and purry. Right.
Furry and purry, and
Yeah.
as we will see in a moment, the reason you're called Chucky is because of a very frightening animation that Mr. T-Bone did for us. Mr. Woods, how are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you guys? I'm excited about this.
I like your October themed hat there, nice and orange, and you're drinking out of an orange drink can.
I did none of these things on purpose. Sure.
And Mr. Linville is also wearing orange.
Yeah, I'm a big pumpkin today. I can even throw this on a little bit, make it a little bit more. Good old
There you
New
go.
England paint. That's not really orange. Whatever. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's good to see both of you. This is going to be interesting.
Hey, look, Sebastien Xavier Mounier is joining us this evening.
Hey, Seb.
And Bronze Leg, all the way in the UK, loves the Gimli Cat. And he loves the David Lee Roth glazed donut thing. Lemmy covered. Yes, this is true. regarding Thirsty and Miserable. Lemmy covered it before he died in the West Memphis 3 support album by Henry Rollins covering Black Flag songs for their cause. 100%
That's
true.
That is where the song comes from.
Your version of it.
That is, that was the inspired reason to do it.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, tonight we're doing our top 5 horror movies.
Yeah.
I have, I'm looking for it right now. I thought I had a bonus list from my buddy Chris, but I may have lost it. So tough. Oh well. I'll put it in the post tomorrow if it's there. Guys, have anything you want to say before we get started here? Did you guys have any rationale, any pattern to your list, any criteria? Starting with you, Rob.
Basically, this was really, first of all, it was really, really hard to pare it down to just 5.
Yep.
Because there were so many considerations that I had to make in this case, whether I would consider it a horror film or if it would be just a sci-fi or it would be a action film with horror elements to it.
This is what Erik and I were talking about earlier.
And so it was really, really tough to pare it down, but I think I did it. And I have some really, I will say, some interesting honorable mentions, but I won't make those just quite yet.
Mr. Woods?
Yeah, I might have cheated with my number 2, but we'll see when we get there. But I just know that movie scared the bejesus out of me, so I think it fits. But yeah, like Rob, I was paring anything down to a top 5 is way more difficult than a top 10 because you have a lot of wiggle room. And I mean, like a top 10 is like a top 10, but like once you get into the top 5, that's the best of the best. Right. And you really have to start making some tough decisions. And I made a couple of tough decisions, 2 films that very personal to me. And I'd love to tell the story of one, not now, but maybe later when we're talking about honorable mentions, because it truly affected me when I was 10 years old and made me afraid to watch a horror movie until I was later in my teens. I didn't pick that film because I don't think it's better than any of the 5 I have on my list, but it's still, for me, one of the scariest things I've ever seen, and I have not seen it again in its entirety since.
Interesting.
Neat.
And Litwiller?
I'm technically cheating in my top 3.
I'm cheating
my
twice.
1, 2, and 3.
I have 2 cheats.
Nothing totally egregious, just format issues and whatever. And this was super hard. I mean, I have written down here within here probably 25 also rans, but I've narrowed that down to about 10 that I'm gonna just mention, just because it's so tough to get. Just I mean, I was saying to Mike the other day that I could easily do a top 11 Stephen King horror movies, and that's still tough.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. I'm very curious to see what overlaps, if anything does.
I expect one of my movies to overlap with one of you guys.
I expect one of mine for sure.
I wanted to mention one of my runners up before we get into the list, just because today's actually the anniversary of its original broadcast on NBC, apparently. Which is Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
Really?
Which I had it on my runners up, and then I saw today was the anniversary of its broadcast. And I know Litwiller will know the answer to this question, but what movie was it paired with when it made its brief theatrical run?
I don't know that.
In the 80s, it was paired with This Is Spinal Tap.
No way.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Okay,
I believe it was Dale Sherman who told me that, and he would.
Okay.
Now, of course, I could be going senile and have this totally fucked up. I don't put that past me, but I believe that's the story.
At that point, it'd probably be very easy to convince people that they're both fake bands.
Yeah, true. Yeah. All right. Well, if you guys are ready, then let's do this. Cinco de Listo, the top 5 horror movies from us 4 dudes. was truly terrifying.
That was
That was crazy.
Did
You
now
know, the only thing I take from that is that we're all just pinheads.
now that intro music that was running underneath that collage there, did any of you pick up on what that intro music was? That was
No.
T-Bone doing,
Yeah.
I guess on a synthesizer app, the opening chords to, or the opening melody, guitar melody to Crazy Train. Except he
wow.
slowed it down and made it spooky. That was Crazy Train.
That's neat. Yeah,
You know what?
I'll have to
That
listen
man
that
needs
again.
to make a greatest hits album.
Yes. Thank you. Well, Rob, you're the star of the show at this moment because we are going to start with your number 5.
My number 5. Okay. Again, and I go back to the whole idea that this was a really hard decision. So number 5 changed hands quite a few times before I finally made that final decision. And I wanted to go with something that was truly classic in the annals of horror. And so I came up with, and this isn't a set, but the movie is Bride of Frankenstein.
Okay.
The sequel, not the original. The original, original's amazing, but it's the sequel that just has that atmosphere to it. It has the Karloff is just brilliant in it, and as is the actor. And unfortunately, I don't know the guy's name who plays Pretorius. He is just so connivingly evil, but at the same time, just this creepy, manipulating asshole in all of this. And I really, really, really enjoy this film. I got the set years and years ago, and it has 5 movies on it, and they're not very long, but 5 movies nonetheless. And I watched through the entire set in like a space of an afternoon, and then I watched it again that evening. Those films are that good. I mean, it's diminishing returns when you get to the end, but they're still, the quality's that good. But my favorite out of all of them has to be Bride of Frankenstein, and that's my number 5.
I'm good with that. That's cool. I remember that box set.
It's a cool pick.
Yeah. And I of course think you've always have show and tell. I think pretty much on every single item that you've ever picked on every list, you've had a show and tell. So
I try.
kudos to you. I only have 2 for mine because as far as movie, physical media goes, movies, it's kind of like the first thing that I started purging. I'm not going to purge my music, but I did, as you guys know, I've purged a ton of movies, including a lot of my picks tonight. But Mr. Woods is up next with his number 5. Do you have show and tell with your number 5?
No, I don't, unfortunately. I'll come prepared next time.
That's okay. You make up for it in what Willer calls your velvety smooth voice. Is that the terminology?
Yeah. Today it just fits to call him a sexy ghost.
Okay.
I'm gonna lose my voice one of the days, and I'll just have to do sign language.
He said it. I did.
Very, very disappointed.
I'm trying to find a working pen. Well, you know what? No one's taking notes tonight. Forget the notes. Okay,
I could take
no
notes.
tonight.
I think I did. I think one of the one of the last shows I was on with you, I took notes and I never gave them to you. But if you need me to take notes, I can take notes.
All you need to do, what my buddy Aaron does, is he just takes a picture of his notes,
Sure.
messages them to me, and then I post them as is. And if people have trouble reading his handwriting, then they have to watch the show.
All right, I can do the notes, which I will take down Rob's number 5 right now. There we go. All right. So I actually do want to echo someone's comment where they say I think my number 5 is the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, yeah, how they're a horror. Yeah.
And I've actually given up on them. I used to be a huge fan, not so much, but I do have a little piece of memorabilia right here.
See this, yeah.
And that is from Maple Leaf Gardens.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't realize that Wood Street was the 4th street, I think, on the north that surrounded the building. So everybody knows the other 3, but this was one of the exit signs. And my sister picked that up for me. So yeah, it's probably the only piece of memorabilia I'll never give up. But I handed over a bunch of jerseys to my friend Carol, who I think is watching tonight. So yeah, I've given up on the Leafs. Anyway, yeah, they're pretty scary, and they're still scary. But my number 5, I mean, it's a classic, and it's a film that, I mean, horror really is all about atmosphere. You got to create the right atmosphere to scare the bejesus out of somebody. And I don't think a film like this has come along since. And it's The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's classic. And I can remember seeing this movie for the first time, and the sets themselves were a character. But I am also admire, and it's one of the first times I really paid attention to Stanley Kubrick's style, the way he moves the camera. And of course, The Shining was one of the very first movies to ever use a Steadicam. That's how they got those great smooth shots behind Danny driving through, or riding his bike through the trike through the hotel. So it also introduced me to that avant-garde, dissonant, terrifying classical music that was used, that postmodern 20th century music that was also heavily featured in The Exorcist. And that's when I really, really fell in love with that style. It is a style of music, yes, that I could put on and spin and just sit back and enjoy. It seems weird because I'm a person who loves like huge symphonic melodic scores like Star Wars and all those sorts, but I also love the avant-garde and the sound of terror and horror, you know, like the Bartok and Penderecki, the one of the biggest influences on horror music of all time. So yeah, The Shining really did it for me. It is a slow burn. I love the pace of it. And I actually just saw Dr. Sleep a couple of nights ago. And for the first 2/3, I think it is a brilliant sequel. I think it runs out of steam once it starts playing towards the fans and having to show the hotel and whatnot. But it also features one of the most disturbing scenes I have ever seen in my entire life, to the point where my wife and I were literally looking at each other going, that's enough. I cannot take this anymore. And I was being deadly serious. And anybody that's seen the movie, it is Baseball Boy and what happens to him. I cannot believe they did it. I'm literally shocked. And there isn't a lot that shocks me, because I've seen Martyrs, I've seen Serbian film. I've seen all that weird, wacky stuff. Anything that happens to kids and that way, I mean, I don't mind kids being in peril. Stuff like Aliens, I'm cool with. Other things like that, sir. Jurassic Park, I'm fine. This was almost overly nasty for no reason, because they probably could have made the point a bit differently. It was too much for me to handle. But besides that, Dr. Sleep, surprisingly really damn good. Great cast. And so if nobody has taken a chance on the sequel to The Shining, do it. But The Shining is my number 5. Yeah, it's on Netflix, and that's why we saw it. We're like, we got to see a Halloween movie, and we want to see this one. And it's well shot, well acted. The special effects are fantastic. It's a great story. Go into it. But like I said, there's a real disturbing scene in the middle that just that ruined both of us, and it was tough to watch. But besides that, Shining, number 5, awesome movie.
We have some agreement here on your on that scene there, and I want to say about Dr. Sleep just real quick that I enjoyed Henry Thomas's part, which I won't spoil who he played, but Henry Thomas, Eat from E.T. And I also don't want to spoil anything, but later on we'll talk about The Shining. Meat Grinder, you're number 5.
It is so true that scene is disturbing, and it's interesting that the kid in that scene is Jacob Tremblay, the kid that was in the movie Room,
That's right.
And that movie is excellent.
And I think they picked him for that reason, because it's such a troubling scene, and he's a well, like a seasoned actor now, and I think he's probably only one of a very, select few that probably could have handled something like that. And my God, he played it so well. I was, like I said, sent chills down my spine, and like you're right. When I saw who it was, because I didn't recognize him, I was like, oh my God, okay, no wonder they got him for that. But yeah, that's a excellent note.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Again, there might be some more about The Shining coming.
Remember when I said earlier that I thought that one of my movies might be on some other lists? Yeah, okay. So anyway, Eric, what do you got, man?
My number 5. Okay, my number 5. Originally, I had put it at my number 3, and it's not necessarily because it's a great movie. It's more its impact, just a lot of things about it. I ended up watching it a few nights ago, and it ended up being my number 5 because it doesn't necessarily hold up as much as I thought, but it's still important. And like, that a movie has broken, broken the seal and is basically infected everybody, is by like, if one small line just it right out, like for example, here's Johnny, everybody, The Shining. Well, if I say I see dead people,
okay, yep,
everybody knows what movie I'm talking about, and I had to put it on there. I remember that movie might not have been the huge blockbuster that it was if it was made 10 years later, because there wasn't any internet or whatever to spread the ending of that movie around.
I went into it blind.
And I think it may have been spoiled if it was made 10 years later, but it is great. I think it's by far M. Night Shyamalan and Ding Dong's best movie. He's got a nice group of ones that could be considered in the ranking of worst movies. But
No.
yeah, Sixth Sense is it's great. It started Toni Collette into being a pretty established horror face. She's got that face, those eyes. But yeah, it's a great movie. So my number 5. There's way better movies that are on my list, on my also ran list or whatever. But I had to do it. So my number 5, Sixth Sense.
Well, I'll spoil for you that one of my runners-up was Signs, because as far as frights go, there's the birthday party scene where Joaquin Phoenix watching that birthday party on South American TV, and then suddenly an alien just walks by, and it's like, whoa, and all the characters at the exact same time go, whoa. So it was really impactful, and also I like the figure on the roof scene. Yeah. So
he was so good. That's his trilogy of great movies. I mean, I think Unbreakable is the best thing he's ever done, but I think Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs, he was just
the trilogy.
He was just on fire. But I want to add one more note before Rob has anything to say. And I think I mentioned this when I was on here before. But I mean, one of the greatest thrills about having kids is watching your favorite movies through their eyes. So this past week, we finally showed my daughter Sixth Sense. And we were just like, we haven't told her anything. She has no idea what it was. We literally just sat her down and played the movie. And so, of course, when it comes down to the last scene of the film, my wife and I are just watching her and we're looking at her react, because I remember how I felt when I first saw it. And thank God nobody ruined that for me. And she reacted in sort of levels because when the ring fell, she's like, what? Then for some reason, it was once they did a close up on the ring, they cut, there's a cut in there. They do a close up of the ring as it lands. Then she's like, what? Once Bruce Willis falls back, her mouth just fell to the ground. And for the rest of the movie, she's like, the whole time. And we're watching her listen and react to the movie. And every time a new layer was added, it was mind blowing. Of course, they went through the whole montage of seeing him, as a ghost and not actually interacting with everybody. It is, I swear to God, man, it is the best part about having kids, just watching your favorite movies through their eyes. It is a thrill. And I've shown her Unbreakable signs, and same reaction. It's just so much fun. And The Thing is next for her. So yeah. Anyway, that's a long story about The Sixth Sense, but I'm glad you picked that because it is an incredible experience, and you can only really experience that film once truly that way.
Yes.
But then when you see it again, you try to find all the little signs as to how he's telling you what's what. And I think it's bloody brilliant. Yes. Signs, you know? But it's really, it is one of his best movies, and the way he sets things up. And he's still, as much as he made bad movies, he's still a great director, and he still has a great eye. Like we watched Old the other day, which I thought was miserable. But he still has a way with moving the camera and telling his stories and working with actors, even though he's working with some horrible actors in Old. He still, I think, has that. He just should stop writing and work off somebody else's screenplay.
Fair point.
That's fair.
I'm just going to add two
honestly, I had said that it was the best thing he's ever done, and I was completely mistaken because I Unbreakable is 20 times the movie that is. But I wouldn't. But I didn't even consider it because I don't see anything that's really horror about that movie.
No, it's not a horror movie.
That's a
What,
comic book
Unbreakable?
movie. It's
Oh yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. It is one of the best comic book movies ever made, for sure. Yeah.
Just two things. I didn't tell any of you guys earlier. Erik has to go at 8:45. So
Yeah,
we just
around there.
that's the target.
Oh.
And the other thing I just wanted to add about The Sixth Sense is I remember going into the movie and seeing Donnie Wahlberg's name in the opening credits, and me and my sister kind of like nudging each other in the ribs, like, because he wasn't an actor back then. He wasn't Blue Bloods back then. And then we got to the end of the movie and we walked to the theater and said, "Wait a minute, Wahlberg, where was Wahlberg? He wasn't in that movie." And we didn't know until way later that he played in the opening the skinny guy that killed himself because he'd lost like however much weight he had to lose to play that role. Neither of us recognized him, and she was the biggest New Kids fan in the world. So if anybody was going to recognize Donnie, I thought it would be her. But yeah, Rob, did you want to add anything there? Or?
Basically, really simple about signs. That scene at the birthday party affected me so much. I don't know if you remember the King's College Theater in downtown Kitchener.
Yeah.
And my friend and I had to park over at the Scotiabank, which is quite a distance. So that walk back to the car after the movie was over, I'm like looking over my shoulder and kind of creeped out. And I mean, it hasn't, I knew it was just a movie, but it was just like, I'm
gonna watch it again.
Just that particular walk back to the car was just a little bit creepy because of that particular scene.
Okay, well that's round one. That's all the fives. No, it's not. I have to go.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. I cheated. This is my first of two cheats. I kind of picked two movies because I picked Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's Grindhouse, which, of course, as you fellows know, is made up of Death Proof and Planet Terror. I wouldn't call Death Proof a horror, though, so we'll just kind of focus on Planet Terror there, which is the Robert Rodriguez portion. Funny enough, when I first got this, I felt that the Tarantino film Death Proof was by far the better film, and I could barely make it through Planet Terror. Then the second time I watched it, I was like, Planet Terror is great. And it's got Josh Brolin in it. It's got Quentin Tarantino in it. They're both great in their own way. Completely different, though. But what really sells it to me was the fake trailers that they threw in the middle. And Rob Zombie's Werewolf Women of the SS has to be by far my favorite fake trailer that I've ever seen. And for those of us lucky enough to have seen it in Canadian theaters or, just gone on YouTube, there was a bonus trailer that played in Canada called Hobo with a Shotgun. And it was made by a lot of the same people that made the Trailer Park Boys. So we saw a lot of familiar faces in that trailer and ultimately in that movie. I believe one of John Dunsworth's daughters is the lead female in that movie.
Ricky's in that movie too.
All three of them are.
Or they are all three?
Together, and they're like in a control room, I think, in a TV studio or something like that. But yeah, all three guys are. Anyway, yeah, so I cheated. Grindhouse is my number 5. More for the Rodriguez portion, the zombie portion. I gotta watch it again. I mean, she's got a gun for a leg. And there's a scene where she frickin' uses the grenade launcher portion of the gun to launch herself in the air. And one of the trailers, Machete, which became, one of my favorite spin-off series from Grindhouse, Danny Trejo's Machete. Rob's first pick was Bride of Frankenstein, the sequel. Okay, so that's my number 5. And that takes us over to Rob to start the next round.
All right. Well, my number 4 pick is another classic character from the Universal. But this one, when I saw it, there have been many versions of Dracula. But I honestly have to say that Gary Oldman's portrayal of Dracula, and I might as well say it, Bram Stoker's Dracula, was truly creepy and in a lot of ways kind of frightening. He plays it. Francis Ford Coppola did right when he made this film. He shot it in a very traditional way, the way they used to shoot films, the way they, back when, cinema began. It's a brilliant film from start to finish. Gary Oldman is great. Unfortunately, the woman who plays Lucy is just whoa! Like she went for it, and it's amazing. And just Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing, I thought he was just brilliant in this film. I mean, he's basically playing Anthony Hopkins, but still. He did just a wonderful job in this film. So yeah, the Bram Stoker's Dracula. I mean, I could have chosen any of the Draculas, but in this case, I think this one. I saw it recently, and I went, "Wow, what a great film this is!" And I will say one thing though. Keanu Reeves should not try an accent ever again in his entire career, because it just did not work with him. But it's Gary Oldman's performance as Dracula that propels this film into my number 4 position.
He's always great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I first became aware of him in.
That's a cool pick.
Really became aware of him with The Fifth Element.
Yeah, so did I.
And then I realized, he's the guy that was also in that and was also in that. I guess you'd call that a character actor.
He's a great character actor.
I actually first saw him in Sid and Nancy.
My mom always talked about that movie. Yeah.
I didn't know it was him. I didn't know who's Gary Oldman.
Right.
But his performance really stuck with me. Weird.
That's cool, Rob. Mr. Woods, what do you have for your number? Or did you cheat again?
No, I didn't cheat. I just think that Rob might be a little disappointed by where this places in my list. It's John Carpenter's The Thing, which, I mean, you talk about perfect movies. I think this is it. But I also think this kind of gets out of John Carpenter's kind of comfort zone a bit.
Yeah.
It does look like a bigger movie. I like, and that score is great too.
Yeah.
I think what I like about it is that it just drops you in the middle of something, and you have no idea what is happening with this dog and the helicopter. But I think this is, I think it's Carpenter's best movie. Dean Cundy, his longtime cinematographer, shot this, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Ennio Morricone's score is fantastic. The cast is incredible, but I mean the big star here is the brilliant special effects, the practical special effects, and then when you go in and see how they did them, you're just blown away by how they accomplished it, how they made it look as real as it did, and how it still holds up to this day. This film has not aged a day, in my opinion, and it still is a fantastic mystery. The screenplay is tight, and you wouldn't even know it's a remake. And I think that's what's so great about it. It stands on its own. It is a brilliant movie. And yeah, if it wasn't for the three others that I selected, this probably would be my favorite a horror movie of all time. But I just, again, all about atmosphere, creating the right atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's with the way it's shot, the sound, and of course the score. And that opening scene in just that bright white snow of the Antarctic, it really gets to you. It's just like right there, right in your face. And you rarely see horror movies, that bright and colorful, which is really odd. But yeah, and Kurt Russell, an underrated actor, and he's brilliant in this movie, and he's in so many other great films. I think he's underrated in Tombstone as well. Yeah, that's right, Death Proof. He's fantastic in that. Yeah. And then if you get a chance to see Bone Tomahawk, holy smokes, man, talk about a great horror movie.
Yeah, that's on my list of mentions.
And then it's another one where you wouldn't expect it. It's bending genres, which I think is fantastic. So yeah, The Thing, my number 4.
I think a lot of the films tonight are going to bend genres. And that's, we were talking about that earlier. My background with The Thing is that I was brought up by my dad, who to him only the original is good, and remakes no. So I was brought up on the original Thing. I was brought up on the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and see, my mom has only ever seen the original, and that's because of my dad. Anyway, go ahead, Mr. Meat Grinder, with your number 4.
Well, sometimes people cheat. Sometimes people don't cheat. Sometimes people don't cheat when the other person cheats. And considering that my number 4 is a movie I love, and it came to me last night, and I realized that I had to put it in here because of the quality of this movie and the rewatchability of it. So my number 4 is Death Proof. Not kidding. It's right there written down. It's been on number 4 since yesterday. And it's funny because unlike you, I realized I've never seen Planet Terror, and I watched it last night for the first time ever. And I liked it. I enjoyed it. I don't really like zombie movies. I'm off zombies. I'm just off. Like, probably The Walking Dead just kind of made it too much for me. But anyway, it was a good movie. But I disagree with you. I think Death Proof is a much better film. I think Planet Terror, it's more fun. That's for sure. But I don't think it's better.
I didn't say Planet Terror was better. I said it was more horror.
That's true. And some people might say, oh, Death Proof isn't really horror. How is it not? He's a serial killer with a car. It's horror, and
fair.
So there it is. It's Death Proof. There's a lot of Kurt Russell going on right now. So there you go.
That's cool.
Number 4 is Death Proof.
I love it. I didn't think we'd get so much crossover so early.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, here's a movie that I don't think any of you guys picked. I saw it in the summer of 1990 with my good buddy Bob Shipper, who we'll be hearing from many times tonight. As Rob knows, he was very influential on me. And basically every horror movie I ever saw was with him when I was a kid. And we went to the theater in the summer of 90. I think I'd just gotten home from Alberta from a nice vacation there. And we went to see a movie that has 2 scenes in it that still scare the bejesus out of me. And that's The Exorcist Part 3.
Wow.
Now, I'll just tell you right off the bat, The Exorcist Part 1 is not on my list. And I actually have not ever seen The Exorcist Part 1. I don't know. I don't watch horror movies that often unless I'm with a buddy. So just hear me out. Let me talk. And if Bob had already rented a movie, like say Friday the 13th Part 3 and 4, he'd already rented them with somebody else. So I never actually saw 3 and 4. I've seen 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but I never saw 3 and 4 because Bob had already rented them and I missed out. And it was the same with a lot of things. Probably Halloween 2. I don't really have any memory of seeing Halloween 2, so he probably rented that with somebody else. And The Exorcist 1 and 2. But we went to the theater to see part 3. And I believe that was George C. Scott, who I adore George C. Scott. My favorite movie that he ever made was Man Getting Hit in the Groin with a Football. You ever seen that one?
Oh, my groin.
That's right. So you've seen it. And there's 2 scenes in it. One of which is the famous ceiling walk scene. And you're sitting there in your theater seat, and all of a sudden you're kind of in a wide shot of this hospital waiting room, and all of a sudden you just see this woman crawling on a ceiling just as if it's nothing. That was freaky. And then the other scene, which I highly recommend everybody looks up and watches on YouTube, is the hallway scene, which is just a very mundane static shot of a hospital hallway and a nurse going about her business. She's like filing some papers, then she goes over here, and then she locks this door, and then she goes down in this way and checks in this door and closes it again, and she comes back down the hallway, turns around, goes this way, turns around, goes that way, and all of a sudden there's a fucking person behind her with a fucking knife. And it's like just out of nowhere. And I remember everybody in the theater just jumping. You know, it's one of those scenes that was really, really effective. So, yeah, I've never seen The Exorcist 1, but I'd like to remind you guys of a scene in another movie that's made many lists in the past, a movie called High Fidelity. And the scene is, what if I told you I hadn't seen The Evil Dead 2 yet? Does that tell you I have an intent to see The Evil Dead 2? Yes, I will see. You know what? I'll see the fucking Up movie eventually. I promise. But that was another list for another show. So my number 4 pick, with all of that context, that's very important. Exorcist Part 3, for those 2 specific scenes that will still give me the heebie-jeebies today.
Do you have an IV of coffee going through you right now?
Yeah, man. I fucking overdid it, man. And like, this is going to be one of those nights where I don't sleep, or it's going to be one of those nights where I kind of crash halfway through the show, and I'm like, okay, Rob, you're next.
Oh, you ain't crashing.
But anyway, yeah. So I guess that's round 2, and we're over to Rob for round 3. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to take a break after round 3 just to check up, do my gen check, and
all good.
And I understand we might have a special guest briefly drop by. Briefly,
Satan.
We'll see. We'll see. But we're into round 3 with our number 3s. And we have my favorite number 1, Mr. Rob Daniels.
Oh, that's kind of you. Very kind. Okay, so I take you back to 1979. And a young 9-year-old Rob is watching TV. And he sees the trailer for a film that has the cracking of an egg and light shining through that egg. That trailer scared the hell out of me when I was a kid, to the point that I did not watch I might as well say it. I didn't see Alien until they first showed it on TV. Now, my mom was really cool about this. She'd allowed us to watch horror movies as long as she was in the room as well to watch them with us. So my number 3 pick is Alien. I have it on. Yeah. I have the Alien quadrilogy. Yeah. It's an amazing set. The score is awesome. Jerry Goldsmith's score is top notch, despite what they did to it. And I won't get into that story because it pisses me off. The atmosphere is amazing in that film. The smoke, the sounds. Ian Holm's an asshole in that film. So much an asshole in that film.
He's not an asshole. He's a robot.
No, he's a robotic asshole.
Okay.
And the film introduced me to Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah.
And Dean Stanton.
Stockwell?
No, Dean Stock. No.
Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton. That's it. Harry Dean Stanton. And
and of course
it was just a seeing the film to this day still brings back that
Drama.
that I felt. And every time I hear that, and Eric will know what I'm talking about, it's kind of this crying sound, as best I can describe it. It's core or whatever they exactly. And they used it again for the Prometheus trailer.
Yep.
But hearing that and seeing that trailer back in '79 when I was a kid, holy crap. But the film, yeah. I remember I took a girlfriend that I was seeing at the time to the 20th anniversary and watching it for the first time. And I'll tell you, it was when the scene that got me and got her as well. Dallas is in the air vents, and he's looking around, and Lambert's freaking out. It's right close to you. And then he turns around and shines the light, and there's that scream and the cut. Oh man.
I'm just going to.
When I first saw that, I had to be peeled off the ceiling when I saw that. And so for me, my number 3 has to be, and if I keep rhyming, it'll drive me crazy, but is Alien from '79. Fantastic film. By the way, while Mike is away and hasn't transferred me over to Eric yet, tonight on Visions in Sound, if you're going to be listening at 12 to 2, Eric and I will be talking about the 35th anniversary of its sequel, Aliens.
35?
35.
Yeah, 86. This is the reaction alien figure blind box dude, and he's got the little. Can you see the tongue darting out there?
Yeah, that's so awesome.
There we go.
Wow.
And he's got a little transparent dome that goes over his head, so he looks a little bit more movie accurate. But that's a blind box reaction figure. Nice one, Rob. Anytime you guys mention something that's on my runners up, I'm just going to tell you. So Alien was on my runners up, and actually,
It's written down on my list.
Yeah, I put Prometheus actually on my runners up too, because there's a couple scenes of Prometheus that are truly I go back to when I need a good fright. One of them is the penis worm.
Mm-hmm.
I love that whole scene with the penis worm. And the other one is the little squiddy thing.
Yeah.
You know the scene, right? When
the surgery is what
the surgery scene and the little squiddy thing.
Yeah.
The way
it's rare to have a good set piece in that movie, but I'm glad there are a couple. And that surgery scene definitely is in tune with what came before.
Yeah.
Not so much the rest of the movie, but yeah, that was I remember watching that going, oh, okay. I mean, I don't know how she ran after that. But besides that, it was a really good, that's a really good fright. Absolutely.
I'll bring up The Wicker Man real quick. I bought that movie because of a recommendation from our mutual friend Joe Perry from the Joe Perry Project. I bought the wood box DVD version, and Rob's got the soundtrack right there. I remember Joe Perry was kind of like recommending it more for Christopher Lee's campy appearance as Lord Summerisle. But when I saw the actual movie and saw particularly that ending, which my dad told me I can't watch that ending. I loved it. And Edward Woodward, to me, his best line ever in movie history is like, "Oh dear God, oh Jesus Christ," at the end of that movie. Man, so good. Anyway.
What is very interesting is that the Nicolas Cage version of that movie is actually much scarier. So scary that I walked the fuck out after about 45 minutes to about an hour gone. Like, that's how it was awful. It was the Nicolas Cage version is a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you never seen it?
Well, the way that he's talking about how scary it is, though.
Oh no,
I'm saying scary because it was so bad I had to leave.
Oh, okay.
It's so bad it's good. That's another one you got to watch with friends and just laugh at. There are some hilarious scenes in it.
Well,
when they still did B movie bingo at the Apollo, we saw it. My nephew and I saw it there, and we just laughed our way through it. You're right. You're right, Uncle Meat. It's a bad movie, but it's fun to make
very
fun
bad.
of.
It's interesting because I believe there was another horror, and they might even be the only two that I totally remember walking out on. I walked out of after about an hour and a bit of the Amityville Horror remake with Ryan Reynolds, which I thought again was horrible. I mean, my mother showed me the Amityville Horror when I was quite young, which really doesn't say a lot for parenting, I guess. But and I love that movie, but the Ryan Reynolds movie, it's just another.
You know what scared me
deplorable piece of
more than
crap.
the original Amityville Horror movie was actually the old original, or Leonard Nimoy in Search of the Amityville Horror episode, because I saw that one night when I was really young. You know, we were allowed to watch In Search of. It was kind of neat and had Spock in it, right? But that one terrified me to the point where I hid under my blankets all night. I just literally hid under my blankets all night. Anyway, are we on Eric's turn?
Yeah, I think so.
Go for it, buddy.
Oh, all right. I've got another 1982 gem. I'm a big fan of supernatural horror. Ghost stories are always a lot of fun. But I don't. Besides, I think my top pick. I don't think there's a better supernatural thriller than Steven Spielberg. I mean, Toby Hooper's Poltergeist.
Yeah, that's fun.
I mean, there's no way that Hooper directed this movie. There is no way. It's just, I mean, again, Spielberg wrote it. Spielberg took care of post-production, and it's just a Spielberg film in and out. And the only reason he couldn't take major directing credit is because he had E.T. out at the same time. I mean, what a summer for him. But I saw this movie when I was a teenager, late night TV. Man, late night TV was so good, and I miss it to this day. I saw so many great movies after midnight on like a Friday or Saturday. And when I saw this one, I made it about halfway through. It was the point where the guy started peeling off his face and a piece of steak was moving itself across the kitchen. And I was like, that's enough for me. I can't do this anymore. But it really, like the whole sequence with the clown, the tree, the whole ending sequence when I finally saw it years later, just how wonderfully staged it was. Just when you think the film is done, it just kicks it into another gear, and that whole finale is absolutely creepy and fantastic and so brilliantly staged. A great score by Jerry Goldsmith, and I think the key to this movie is giving a shit about the family, and that's what Jerry Goldsmith does right off the bat. Caroline's theme, lullabies, we've heard them in horror movies, but this one just speaks more to that kid, to the family, to their bond, and that's what saves them in the end. And this really is a story about the mom playing a hero more so than the dad. She's really the head of this family. She's the one that saves them in the end. And you talk about films not having strong female characters. This is one of them, and she does everything she can to save her baby. And I think that that's a point that doesn't really get talked about a lot with this film. But anyway, it really focuses on the family. It also focuses on the beauty of the ghosts as well, especially in the middle sequence when we see them all appearing and walking down the stairs. And when Caroline, walks through her mother, and she can literally smell them, and you just those moments, those family moments, really make you care for what comes later in the movie, and that's just a brilliant setup. But yeah, this is a Spielberg film through and through. The way it's shot, the way it's told. Yeah, but it's a ghost story. Like I said, scared the bejesus out of me as a teenager, and yeah, this was one of the very first horror movies I watched after my traumatic experience when I was 10, and but I grew to love horror movies, and yeah, Poltergeist is utterly brilliant.
I won't add anything to that. You've said it well. The Spielberg flavor of it, though, is identifiable, even if you can't. It's like a je ne sais quoi. You know, it's hard to articulate precisely what is Spielbergian about it. But I immediately think of that kitchen scene where she's making like the chairs move around, and that just seems so. It reminds me of the Dreyfus kitchen scene in Close Encounters. You know, it's like
I was just about to say. And that's very interesting. I was just about to compare it to Close Encounters, but something different. It's that lit stuff coming into the house. It's very. It looks very similar to the lighting in Poltergeist at times.
I mean, it's Adventures in Suburbia. I mean, that's a Spielberg theme earlier on in his career. But I mean, there's certain shots you can just tell. Just simple camera tricks. The scene, in Jaws where you see the background kind of zooming out, and then we see your character just stay still. And I forgot what they call that. It's a zoom in rack focus. Yeah, dolly zoom. So the dude does this incredible dolly zoom down in the hallway when the mother's trying to run towards the bedroom, and he makes it seem like the hallway is growing.
Right.
But it's all done in camera, and that's a Spielberg thing. I mean, Tobe Hooper wouldn't have come up with that. And I'm not dumping on Tobe, because I mean he did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for crying out loud, which is a brilliant piece of work. But just there's nothing afterwards that would say that he would have produced something like Poltergeist. I mean, Spielberg was there every day, and no matter what he says in the papers about Hooper's. Yeah, I mean, it's Spielberg took this film over in post-production, said goodbye to Hooper, and he made it his own movie. But but you can just tell by the way it's shot that back in the 70s, 80s Spielberg, it's so distinctive.
Awesome, thank you, Erik. And my other favorite, Erik, what's your number 3?
My number 3, it's the beginning of my cheating. It's going to be cheating. Well, not really, because each time I'm picking a movie, but there are movies connected to it that are important to me.
Okay.
So my number 3, I guess it makes sense, and I'm not 100% on this fact, but I believe it's true. I guess it makes sense to have the only horror movie to win a Best Picture, Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if that's completely factual, but it's pretty close. Silence of the Lambs was a great movie. Highly effective.
I'll never see it again, ever.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen it many times.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and the reason why I'm cheating is that Red Dragon, actually, I read the book Red Dragon before I even saw the movie, and that to me it's kind of like a monumental memory for me, because I know for sure the first time I ever went to a movie by myself was Red Dragon, and I remember that feeling was pretty wild, and I really like that movie, but I mean it's not as good as Silence of the Lambs, but I really think that both are great casts in both, and my number 3 is Silence of the Lambs.
Wild.
Yeah, great pick. Fantastic.
And as soon as you said it, the first image that came into my mind was Jim Carrey putting the chicken skin on his face.
Silence of the Lambs.
It's good to see you, Clarice. My mom used to give us so much shit when we did that when I did that at the dinner table.
I used to do it too. That is one of the funniest things I've seen. Cable Guy's so underrated.
It is so
underrated.
Oh my god. Well, man, I'm not 100% sure how that was a cheat, but my number 3 definitely is a cheat.
Well, I mentioned 2 movies. It's a little bit of a cheat.
I suppose. Well, I got 2 movies, but specifically, they're both anthology films. And if I could combine them together into a greatest hits anthology film, my Creepshow 1 and 2 would consist of the following 3 shorts: The Raft from Creepshow 2, The Hitchhiker from Creepshow 2, and The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill from Creepshow 1. That's the one where the character played by Stephen King himself finds a meteor that landed on his property that turns everything into plant life. And it's quite, even though it's like his character's kind of played for comedy, it's quite terrifying, especially for a kid watching this on pay TV. You know, I also saw a lot of horror stuff just because it was on pay TV early in the morning when I was up.
Probably Super Channel or First Choice.
We had Super Channel. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill was one very memorable sketch. The Hitchhiker was a good one. I remember seeing that one with Bob Shipper. I probably saw Creepshow 1 by myself and Creepshow 2 with Shipper, because I remember being horrified at the Hitchhiker, where this woman hits a guy with her car and does a hit and run. She kills him, but his corpse keeps turning up down the road, and he keeps getting into her car going, "Thanks for the ride, lady. Thanks for the ride." And I remember Shipper and I were just like mind blown. We were like, "Holy fuck, it's still following her. It must be hanging on underneath. Thanks for the ride, lady." Oh, that's all he ever said. Damn it. There, look. Greg knows.
Thanks for the ride.
And then the other one that I mentioned is the raft. That's the one where you got, the kids from Makeout Point going out to this raft in the middle of this kind of very secluded lake, but there's this weird oil slick on the surface of the lake.
I've seen that one.
And it starts coming up through the gaps in the planks of the raft. And I'll spoil the ending of this particular sketch, but the dude somehow, I think he throws something over to distract the oil slick. It goes away. He takes a dive in the water, makes it to shore, and then he gets to shore. And he's like, I beat you. And then all of a sudden the fucking thing just comes up like a wave. And that's the end of that particular sketch. So yeah, if I could make a greatest hits of Creepshow 1 and 2, that would be my number 3.
I've never seen Creepshow 2, and I haven't seen Creepshow in 30 years more. I mean, wow. So I'm interested for sure.
Lots of Stephen King content. I really enjoyed them. Not every single one, but then if there's one that you don't like, then there's another one coming up after that. And we had some good afternoons renting horror movies, and that's one still remember watching with him, and just like he says, "Thanks for the ride, lady." That was just so memorable. Okay, so we have our top 2 to go, and we have 45 minutes to do it in. So let's take a break while I go check up on my wife.
Right back.
Well, what song shall we play?
I don't know. Something
Something
short.
not you don't want to hear you, obviously.
Yeah. How about not me?
Well, we'll play that one. Let's see. Clockwork Orange is Rob Zabo, right?
I've got the time is short.
Got the time is shorter. Let's do Got the Time.
I'll do
Okay.
that.
So this is Rob Zabo with Got the Time, Clockwork Orange.
Number 1, this is a little Anthrax song, originally written by Joe Jackson, called Got the Time. Letter just right. Thank God, gotta get this letter just right. Little ringing on the telephone, way off with the ringing of the head now. No such thing as tomorrow. Only 1, 2, 3, go time! The time tick tick ticking in my head. Turn the time tick tick ticking in my head. Turn the time tick tick ticking in my head. Ticking in my head. Ticking in my head. Ticking in my head. Someone doesn't what the time is. I don't know. They know I gotta go now. No time to get my watch repaired. No time, never got a thing to wear. They're ringing on the telephone, way over the ringing on my head now. No such thing as tomorrow. Only 1, 2, 3, go time! For the time tick tick ticking in my head. For the time tick tick ticking in my head. For the time tick tick ticking in my head. Ticking in my head. Ticking in my head. Ticking in my head.
Hi. I think I'm on the LeBrain train by myself.
Oh no.
No. It's myself and Rob. So
Yes.
did you watch Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid yet?
I have not yet. I have
but
it.
You
and
have it. That's good. That's great.
I have it.
Hey, it's me, Max the Axe.
Oh,
Hey, fellas, it's me, Max the Axe. How you doing?
you look like if Phil Rudd got seriously into the dope. But yeah, please watch that. I know you'll love it. I'm waiting for you to love it. I just think you will.
Okay.
Well, welcome back to the show, everybody. It's me, Max the Axe. Well, it's not really. It's me. But...
Just for you, Uncle Meat.
There it is. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
And I don't know if anyone here has seen it, but I ended up binge watching season 1 of Only Murders in the Building, and I loved it. It was just fun.
Greg's mentioning another good creep show one.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, I remember that one too. I forgot that it was Ted Danson, but I do remember the guy being buried in up to his neck. And
cheers to Ted Danson.
What's that?
Cheers to Ted Danson.
Cheers to Ted Danson. One of the other creep show ones had Ed Harris in one of the sketches before he was bald, and yeah, those are crazy to go back and watch.
Love Ed
But
Harris.
we are into the top 2, and I'm not going to keep this on because this is fucking ridiculous. Last year's Halloween costume.
Yeah, too much.
You were Max the Axe last year?
I was last year I was Max the Axe. Actually, last year for the Halloween special, which I did on the 31st, I actually played the song Oktoberfest Cheer for the first time.
Ah,
that's right.
But I didn't have a video of it, so I just mimed it as if I was doing it live while it was playing at the speakers.
Man, it took a year. It took a year for that piece of crap to come out. Holy cow.
It took a year for that album to come out. Yeah. Anyway, enough about you. Let's move on to Rob's number 2 while I enjoy my espresso.
All right.
This might be a bad idea, but I want to maintain the energy.
My number 2 has struck me because it's not the kind of film that I would necessarily consider. Well, first of all, I will say this. I don't consider myself a fan of horror yet. I constantly seem to end up really liking these horror movies, and my top 2 will reflect that. This film from 1999, really, when I saw it in the theater with my friend Scott, we both didn't know what was going on. And then when it finally got to its ultimate conclusion, it was like, wow, this is the best cannibal movie / vampire movie we've ever seen in our entire lives. I'm speaking of Ravenous. Oh, absolutely brilliant film. It is brutally gory in spots, but there are implications in the film that if you look past them much further, it'll give you nightmares, man. I'll tell you. There's some pretty scary implications in this. It has some wonderful performances. Guy Pearce and Robert Carlyle are just absolutely brilliant in this film.
Francis Begbie.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Francis Begbie.
It has one of the best, at least in my opinion, one of the best end battles that I have ever seen in a film, where they are just brutalizing each other in the end. And it is actually one of my favorite scores. And Erik and I were discussing this when we saw Dune, and you were wondering, and you were wondering why there were certain moments in it with like the hoedown music and that sort of thing in it. I look at it this way, and feel free to disagree with me on this, but I think Carlyle or Calhoun at that point was treating them like prey. So it was joyful to him, and you can see it on his face. So that's where that I think that choice of music was particularly poignant. And that last 8 to 10 minute scene, that particular cue, every time I hear it, I'm just like, oh, just the hairs in the back of my neck stand up. It is, again, like I said, the end is brutal, but it has a really good payoff and a possible sequel bait. But it was extremely, I thought it was extremely well done. And there are, like I said, it's not necessarily, like I said, the gore and the violence in this is brutal, but it's what's lying under the surface of this. I mean, and there are comedic elements in this cannibal film as well that you don't expect. I mean, the actor's name escapes me. Jeffrey Jones is in this film. And if you're not familiar with Jeffrey Jones, he was the father in Beetlejuice, and that sort of thing. I saw this film, and it very quickly became a favorite of mine, and is kind of a Halloween staple for me. I love it. Number 2.
Nice.
I'm really curious about something just to connect the dots here, but I seem to recall that myself and Joe Perry, when we were working at The Beat Goes On, we used to quote a line that I believe is from Ravenous. It was in the trailer. He was licking me. Is that right?
Oh yeah. He was licking.
We quoted that line over and over and over again. Over and over. I still haven't seen the movie, but
bad man licking me.
Crazy. Well, I'm in. Good one, Rob. And you worked in Robert Carlyle, which made my mom happy. So there you go.
Yeah, he's really good in it. He's
really good in everything.
Yeah.
He's really good in everything.
Yeah, I just saw that film recently, so that's why it was fresh on my mind when we were talking about it when we were watching Dune just before the film started. But yeah, I think it's everything to do with tone. I think the tone switch at that moment just was so off-putting to me because of everything that happened, and I think I had expectations for where it was going to go, and I didn't see the tonal shift happening, and so I think that's where that threw me off. Still a great movie, but yeah, there was only a couple of cues where I'm like, what's happening? Because I think tonally he nails the time period as well as the horror aspects as well, just until after that cave sequence. But yeah, I'm finally glad I got to see it. That's been on my list for a very, very long time. And yeah, it's tough to watch something like that with the family around. So I finally got some time to myself and I took a look at it. And yeah, it was unexpected. That's for sure. I mean, I knew what was going to happen. Like, I mean, I knew what type of movie it was going to be, but I mean, the way it went about, it was, yeah, it's a solid piece of cinema, horror cinema.
Well, it's your turn, Eric, so you may as well just take it from there.
Yeah. This one could be my cheat, because I don't think it's necessarily a horror movie per se. It's very much in the realm of like neo-noir, psychological thriller. It's a crime movie, but it still has that. It's enough to scare you, and I think the whole ending sequence is enough to just keep you on the edge and give you those same feelings that you get when you see a traditional horror movie. So it's 1995's Seven.
Oh, I knew I knew that was coming.
And so
you had a nice little it's like you're at your own trailer machine. Like you literally oh well, what's 7 he's talking about.
Yeah, and
anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's really a movie that made David Fincher. I mean, I really do enjoy Alien 3, but to think of that this is his second big feature film. I mean, after Alien 3, he went back and did a lot of music videos, which he was very, very good at. But coming back with 7, what a home run this one is. And again, atmosphere. This is just a rain-drenched film. The rain doesn't stop, and it's perfect for that Fincher style, very dark, desaturated, moody. He captures it just so perfectly. I mean, if you watch his films now, everything is very dark and dank and real. But the mystery is incredible. I knew nothing about the 7 deadly sins when I saw it, and an interesting story with when I first saw it. I knew about it. I was in high school, and everybody was talking about it, but I never got a chance to see it until it came out on VHS. And a friend of mine who knew I really liked movies and says, "Well, why don't you come on over? I've got these 2 films I want to show you. One is 7." And then the next one is The Usual Suspects. So it was a Kevin Spacey back to back. But I mean, 2 great films, and she was right. And again, not knowing who Kevin Spacey was, so it was great to see him when he shows up at the end of this film. But as I said, the ending sequence as they're driving out, outside of the city, and all of that, the mystery just keeps on going until the last frame. And the whole buildup, and Howard Shore's score just absolutely makes that sequence. There's an underlining growl or rumble about his music that just keeps going into a very, very slow crescendo until that last moment when Brad Pitt does what I think all of us would have done when he finds out what happened. And the fact that the bad guy wins in this movie is actually quite refreshing. It feels real, but it's a shocking film. There's stuff in here that is genuinely shocking. And there's a lot of stuff that stays with me. A lot of the stuff that happens, like the last 2 deaths, I think, are very, very gruesome, but you don't necessarily see them, which I think is great. You see enough with all the other deadly sins that you get an idea of what's going to happen, and Fincher shows you enough that it implies what has happened, like the Polaroid with the guy in the hooker, which was just like, what? Nobody needed to see that. So yeah, Fincher is in top form here, and he's one of my favorite directors of all time. Not bad for a guy who was doing matte paintings on Return of the Jedi and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and really made a name for himself. And one thing, I just wish he would work with Howard Shore more. I could use less of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
I saw you mentioned them earlier on Facebook, Ross and Reznor.
It was interesting about that movie, I think, and I'm not sure if this is a director's choice or a writing choice or both, but it is interesting to me that the movie starts off pretty gory and gruesome. Yeah. And it seems to, in general, kind of curtail the gruesomeness and taper it down until most directors would have shown the severed head. And it's like show less to freak you out more and trust the actors to. It's an incredible choice. I think a lot of directors would have made a different choice. It just seems to me it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, the right choice in my opinion.
And you talk about jump scares. One of the best jump scares of all time is in this movie. With that dude who's strapped to the bed for 12 months straight. I mean, and everybody knows it's coming. Everybody knows it's coming. And Fincher's just toying with us, right? That slow push into the face. The SWAT team guy, he's coming over. He takes a real close look at him, and of course the guy breathes, and it's like, that's it. Get me out of here. I'm done. But I mean, everybody knew it was coming. It's much like that alien scene in Signs. It's coming, but very effective, and it wasn't cheap. That wasn't a cheap scare, but it's such a slow burn, and it really fits with those noir films from the past. Great atmosphere, love it, absolutely love. And Brad Pitt is, I think, as much as a huge star, I think he's an incredible dramatic actor, and he's done some of his best work with Fincher. And I think if he doesn't have to do an accent, much like Keanu Reeves, then I am fine. Because never watch Brad Pitt in 7 Years in Tibet. or The Devil's Own. That's good try with that Irish accent, pal. No, but when he's being himself, and he's able to kind of like, like 12 Monkeys. He's brilliant in that. So when he's able to do those roles, Fight Club, I love him in that sort of stuff. But yeah, Fincher really gets the best out of Brad Pitt. But anyway, great movie.
What was that one Coen Brothers that he was in?
Burn After Reading.
Yes.
He's
a very real character.
He's a Brad Pitt character actor, really. He really
is. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, the Moneyball. I think he's brilliant in Moneyball.
Oh, that movie's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that movie so much.
What's the Tarantino one? Inglourious Bastards.
Oh,
Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, I was gonna say
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
No, there's one. The very it wasn't a Tarantino film, but it was
True Romance.
True Romance. He plays a stoner, and he stole the movie.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
he tends to do that sometimes. Like he stole 12 Monkeys.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
There was a movie with Bruce Willis and Christopher Plummer in it.
No, but staying with the theme, is he not doing again another bad accent? In the interview with the vampire.
Yeah, he has to. Accent. It's kind of like that Victorian. It just doesn't work. He just doesn't work when he's being real and he's able to. Yeah, I think he works much better.
I agree.
Yeah, he's a very good actor.
Moving on to my Brad Pitt, which is Uncle Erik.
Oh,
the
really?
Brad Pitt of the show.
Yeah. Right now, if anything, I look like every Scooby-Doo villain that's ever been caught at the end right now. Something like that, Something like that. Anyway.
Uncle Meat?
It
was him all along.
If it wasn't for us meddling kids.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. My number two is definitely cheating because it's involving 3 movies. And let's put it this way. I read a book in somewhere around 1984 that affected me huge. It was an extremely long book, and it affected it. Right before it, I had read Cujo with a Saint Bernard that was beside me the whole time, like a full-grown one. So that's an interesting way to read Cujo. The next book I read was It. And it affected me huge. We had a, just down the street in Waterloo on McDougall Avenue, there was this little kind of creek area that had a walk-in kind of sewer thing you could walk in. And when I started reading that book, it literally, like, that's it. So I've read whatever the first quarter, and I go and see that place, and it freaks the shit out of me. Because but anyway, the book was very important to me. When the Tim Curry hit TV, I was just like, this. It's like I felt when Kiss Meets the Phantom, went on TV when I was a kid. Like I was just like, oh my god, it's it, and I loved it, and I love it so much. It's still my mother's favorite movie. I think she's bought it on DVD like 4 times, and like the cast is amazing, and it's familiar. It's Venus Flytrap. It's Jack Tripper. It's the judge from Night Court. It's just it just never ends, and it's so good. And then I waited for years for the It movies. I heard about it 5-6 years ago, and they finally came. And I find it hard to say what's better. I would say personally, I enjoy the It a miniseries better, for sentimental reasons. I've argued with my mother many times, who thinks that's way better than It 1 and It 2 in the movies, and in ways she's right and in ways she's wrong. It's been improved on and what he's trying to do, and so I love those movies so much. It's very strange too, because I was reading about it, and I don't know who has read the book, but in the book, the female character, Beverly Marsh, she ends up having sex with all the guys in what you could basically say is child pornography gangbang. It's a big, I'd love to know if that book could be released 2 years ago. I just can't see how it could have. And the one comment I saw from Stephen King, he's like, no one seems to care that children are getting tortured and killed, but I guess they don't like that sex scene. And I'm not defending it in any way, but like, there's just a lot of things, like about that book is like kind of just it has stuck with me from the very beginning, and I had to put all three as my number two, and that's it. It had to be.
Yeah, I was wondering how they were going to pull off that scene in the films, and I think they handled it with taste in the movies. But it's a key scene. I mean, without it, they can't win.
Yeah.
So, but I understand the scene. I mean, you're talking. Yeah, it's like, oh, which side do you fall on? But it's super important to the story, and I get it. I get it. And then it's like, imagine being in that role. You're like, man, I don't want to do this, but we have to do this, right? And so you're kind of like seesawing back and forth, going, man, could you actually do that in order to, save yourself? And I think it's I don't hold Stephen King. There's nothing where I'm like, oh, what a dirty bastard for putting that in the movie. Or in the book. I get it. That's the thing, is I get it. I understand why it's there. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get through, especially when you're reading it. Man, I was like, how are they going to get through all of these pages and put it in the movie?
I quite remember that when I read it, I hadn't even had a girlfriend yet. I didn't know what the hell. I didn't know what it really was. And it wasn't until I got reminded of it by somehow, and like, oh yeah, whoa. I didn't know really the vastness of that for years. Yeah. And it's just a great, and it's a long book. Like, that's a big book. And that's when they did it right, was part 1 and part 2. That's why it's better than the supposedly there is like 6 or 7 hours of film that at some point they're going to put out, supposedly putting out like a 6 or 7 hour movie. And I really hope they do that. I'd love to see that.
Cool. Thanks, man. Just real quick. You mentioned Cujo, that you read the book, and yeah, like I remember
my dog
too.
beside me the whole time. That's great. With Saint Bernard, big one.
I never had a dog when I was a kid, but I do remember reading that book when I was a kid. It might have been the first Stephen King book I ever read, and I remember it had no chapters. It's just one long narrative with I don't remember breaks between scenes. I seem to remember it that way, and I think the next Stephen King book that I read was the Bachman book, The Running Man, which had 100 chapters, counting down, I think, from 100 down to 01 or something like that. So like, I do remember, though, that my early exposure to Stephen King books were 2 books with really weird chaptering, But anyway, no, great picks. And, I think we'll be hearing from Mr. King again. But my number 2, oh, yeah, it's Stephen King. Going back to basically my number 1 and 2 could very well be tied. I have basically 2 phases of my life, which is my entire youth hanging out with Bob Shipper, and then everything that came after. And the horror movies that I saw with Shipper, this is the best of them. And it was so good that we rented it at Steve's TV, but it was so good that we watched it. And then we said, do you want to rewind that and watch it all over again? And so we did, for the very first and only time we ever watched a movie back to back like that. One thing that we loved about it, and that King is an absolute master of, is the art of swearing. You know that line in A Christmas Story where he's talking about his dad was so masterful at weaving swear words together? No. Stephen King is the master. He's the one that came up with the word fuck stick. I mean, and so we were very much attracted to the dialogue of this movie. We were at that age where hearing movies with R-rated dialogue was so new to us, and we just drank up every memorable phrase. But the movie that I'm talking about is Christine, the one that even my dad and uncle watched with us because of the Charger. I believe if my mom was watching, she'd be able to fill us in here, but I believe my uncle owned one of those. Maybe not the exact same year, but God, I mean, it's a perfect film. And it even has that classic fake out death ending where at the very end you think Arnie's dead, but then he's not dead. You know, and had the guy making out with the girl in the car. I remember Bob Shipper and I, prepubescent boys, or barely, learning what girls are. And there's a scene in the car scene where he takes his hand and he puts it under her shirt. And so Bob and I, not knowing what's going on there, we thought that all girls had a pocket in their shirt at that exact spot. Because also at a similar time in our lives, we were watching the Cannonball Run. And in the opening scene, when the girls in the Lamborghini, was it a Lamborghini or a Ferrari? They get pulled over. And, they're always pulling their driver's license out of their top like that. So Bob and I thought, this is the pocket right in here where the girl keeps her ID. We're so innocent. We had no idea. So we learned a lot about life from the movie Christine. But I've written down two of my favorite lines from that movie. There was a character in that movie named Will Darnell who owns the garage where Arnie Cunningham fixes up this car. Or where we think he's fixing up this car. And the owner shitters. He knows what I'm talking about. Shitters. Darnell had some great dialogue in this movie. And the two lines that I wrote down here was when he pulls in the car and it's spewing exhaust all over his garage. He goes, "Okay, that's the last time you run that mechanical asshole in here without an exhaust hose." And a bit later on, "I knew a guy had a car like that once. Fucking bastard killed himself in it. Son of a bitch was so mean, he could have poured boiling water down his throat and he would have pissed ice cubes." And I can't remember the name of the actor that played Darnell, but he's a character actor. He was actually in Mrs. Doubtfire. He was actually in Mrs. Doubtfire. I can't remember his name, but King Carpenter. That classic team up. Christine, was that 1983-ish? And also introduced us to so much rock and roll. Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood and the Destroyers. I believe You Keep on Knocking by Little Richard. Buddy Holly, Not Fade Away. At least those three tunes that movie introduced me to. And those are, those are important tunes to me. So killer soundtrack, killer rock and roll soundtrack. Loved the idea that the car only plays an old rock and roll station and gets nothing else. Brilliant film. Christine, my number 2. And over to you. Oh, Rob, your house is haunted. A light just turned itself
lit
on.
Up. Yes,
all by itself.
He got a skull. I just noticed the skull.
Yes, he does. There
it was great when Gimli was sleeping beside it. It was perfect. It was a perfect shot.
Well, he's close by. Okay, I guess my number one.
I guess without further ado, let's
drum
roll. Number
all
one.
Right.
Slot.
Well, my number one should come as no surprise to anyone. Hilarious House of Frankenstein.
You.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
My number one has to be John Carpenter's The Thing. It is kind of the first horror movie that I ever really kind of saw, other than Alien at that point, and I had it on I had recorded it off of TV, a really bad dub that took out all the language and everything like that. It was just really dumb, but I loved it. It had the really stupid opening, or rather the really stupid ending, which there are actually 2 endings to this film that not a lot of people know about. I love this film. My cousin and I, when we used to, when you had to rent a VCR with your VHS tape, we would choose a movie, and we chose John Carpenter's The Thing and 2010. And we basically watched them back to back the entire weekend.
Wow.
Absolutely freaked the crap out of me when I was a kid. There's a specific scene that got me at the time, and whenever I see it, and I actually had the great opportunity to see it in the theater twice on Halloween at the Apollo. So the particular scene I'm talking about, and Erik will know for sure, is the scene where the doctor is about to apply the defibrillator, and clear. It ain't working. Clear. And he puts his hands right through his chest, and the chest starts chewing on his hands. That freaked the crap out of me when I was a kid. I was just, whoa. And like I said, to this day, and Erik, I can't agree with you more. Those effects stand up to today. There are a couple of things where I'm kind of like, it's a little bit janky.
Yeah, there's stop motion, right? There's a couple of stop motion shots. Yeah.
And a couple of other little things.
Yeah.
And also, I'm all about the downbeat.
Oh, Rob's
Film
frozen.
ends.
Oh, there we go.
Say that again. We lost you.
Sorry, I love the downbeat ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the way this film ends. It just it leaves so much to your imagination, and as to what's going to happen to these guys. And that's why I love this film. I continue to love this film. I have watched it every Halloween since 1993 when I first bought it on VHS.
Well, that's a number one.
Yeah, that is
And
a number one.
I just I love this film. And if it ever, I'll see it whenever it comes back to the theater. I've seen it has been shown, and I will see it again when it comes back, because it's just, every time I watch it, there's something that little bit different that you catch in the film. I just love it. I absolutely love this film. My number one, hands down, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Beauty.
Good pick. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the
Frankenstein, but I thought it would be a nice joke.
I love the story behind the artwork of the poster. Because Drew Struzan had no idea what this movie was about. He had 24 hours to put it together, and he just drew what he thought the film represented and handed it over literally in 24 hours. And that's what you see on the cover. So,
that ain't bad.
It doesn't make any sense because you never see that in the movie, but it sort of does.
It kind of does make sense.
Yeah, right? Not bad for
Good
a
guesswork.
day's work. Yeah, and it's a
Good
classic
guesswork.
piece of art.
And for the observant tonight, you will note that the sweatshirt that I am wearing
I get it.
is Outpost 31
Yeah.
from the film. In fact, you can't read it, but it does say U.S. Antarctic Research Program Outpost.
Nice.
That's cool.
Beauty.
And Gimli wants
Good.
to say goodnight.
Aw.
But yeah, that's my number one.
Beauty, Rob. All right. In the effort of getting Erik out of here at 8:45, let's go over to Mr. Woods.
I can be a little later, but not much.
Okay.
It's cool.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
No, good.
Okay. I won't spend too much time on this one then.
Okay.
Just a quick story about this movie is that I saw it when I was in my early 20s. The TV turned off twice while I was watching it. And then when I dropped my girlfriend home after watching the movie, I came back upstairs, still living at home with my parents. My sister's room is right beside me, and she's making these kind of gurgly groaning sounds like I'm like, what the hell is wrong with her? And of course I couldn't sleep that night because I had just watched The Exorcist. The TV had never shut off like that before, ever. So we were watching this. About 50 minutes into it, the TV turns off. And then during the whole exorcism, the TV turned off again. I'm like, what's happening? And of course, with my sister making exorcist noise next to my bedroom, I'm like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. So one of the most profound movie-going experiences I have ever had. It still remains one of my favorite movies of all time. Again, music plays such an incredible role in this film. Tubular Bells This is the film that really shot this thing into like the stratosphere. Krzysztof Penderecki's music, fell in love with it, listening to it in this film. Bit of a trivia note here: Lalo Schifrin actually wrote an original score for the film. He wrote the trailer music. Eventually, it was tossed by Friedkin, and he actually wanted Bernard Herrmann as well to score the film, but eventually he just needle dropped a lot of music into the movie. But yeah, it's just a perfect piece of filmmaking. It has a bizarre opening, which I had no idea what was going on. And I'm like, is this more like art film than a blockbuster movie? But I think that the way it builds and slowly builds with the way Regan finally, is locked into her room and doing absolutely some of the most insane stuff to herself as well. And again, this is another one where it's like, they're putting children in peril, but she's a little bit older. And then I just really couldn't believe they had her do some of the stuff in this movie and say some of the things that she did. So, but that whole exorcism scene at the end is, the fact that you're going to have that movie, the last, third of the film is going to take place in one room, was quite daring. And there's a lot of great stuff going on in that film, but it's a really good buildup. It's a good character movie. It still remains one of the scariest experiences I've ever had watching a film. And maybe it wouldn't be number one if I didn't have those experiences while watching it, but that still remains very profound. And again, I guess it's more nostalgia than anything, but it's a fantastic movie, and I don't watch it as many times as I can around this time of year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Meat Grinder, what's your number one? Did you cheat?
Well, I will just say that The Exorcist is incredible. I love that Max von Sydow can be that, and he can be the brewmeister of the Elsinore Beer Brewery.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can.
So I love the movie. It's really so well done, and it's such a contrast to the piece of shit that the sequel is.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know about Exorcist 3. Exorcist 2 is fucking awful.
Yeah. 3 is a different thing.
It's not even interesting. Like,
No,
there's
it's not.
nothing. It's so weird. I don't know.
Okay, well, go ahead with your number one.
I think Eric Woods is not. Oh, it looks like he's muted. Anyway, sorry.
No, he was just making a face.
Oh, I see. Okay, I got you.
I'm crinkling candy wrappers.
Oh,
so I
that's
didn't
what
want
you're
you to
doing.
hear
He's
them.
eating early Halloween candy, is what he's doing.
Would
It's
you like
because
some
he's
candy?
It's
You know, he's
because
got-
he's a pro. He knows.
He's
how
got
to
two
put that
kids,
up.
so he has to do this on the sly.
That's funny. Well, my number one is going to be no shock. It's Eric Woods' number 5. The Shining is it's a movie that is timeless. I myself had an experience, in the last 6 months or so. I showed my nephew, who at 19 at the time, who had never seen The Shining, and that was a great experience to realize what is going on. Everything about it, it's amazing. It's such a great movie. And I've seen so much things. I've read so much things about it. But no one wanted to be Shelley Duvall. She was just treated really treated badly, and
Never get away with it today. Never get away with it today.
No, absolutely not. And the reason why it is kind of cheating, I came very, very close to putting Dr. Sleep at number 5 because I love that movie a lot. I know what you're saying about that scene is really hard. I think it's effective though. And I just love everything about the movie. It's so well done. There's a scene that they have where Ewan McGregor is doing kind of a job interview as well.
Yeah.
And it's the guy's wearing the same stuff. The room is the same. The colors are the same. It's the same. And when you notice that, it's creepy. It's really well done. And it makes sense because Mike Flanagan, I actually quite like. I've watched those two, the House on Bly Hill or whatever. Both of them I've seen. And I recently watched a Midnight Mass that was actually really good. So I really like a Mike Flanagan. But The Shining is like it's the pinnacle to me. So that's my.
You know what's interesting about Dr. Sleep is that, you know, they explain things that happened in The Shining, which is, you know, at the end of The Shining, you're left to your own thoughts, and you know, you're like, oh well, what really happened? But I actually like the explanations in Dr. Sleep. They made sense. They didn't seem forced. It was like, oh, okay, I get that. And by the way, when they remade the scenes from The Shining in Dr. Sleep, I'm like, did they just take out the actor or did they do some deep faking? Because it was almost identical and just as powerful. But yeah, Dr. Sleep is really great. But yeah, The Shining is, you're right, it's timeless. Yeah, great choice.
Timeless.
Well, since I can't add anything to the brilliant discussion that we'll have, my number one is The Shining and Dr. Sleep.
Let me guess. Okay, you're cheating because your number one is The Shining with the guy from Wings.
No.
I've seen that in a long time.
I'll just you guys have already done the analysis. I'll just share with you an anecdote, which is this is the movie that got me really into Stanley Kubrick. Like 2001 and Space Odyssey, I was really into, but then I was exposed to this and it's the same guy. And I was like, okay, so this is somebody I'm interested in following. But the reason I saw this movie would have been summer of 1995. And my brand new girlfriend at the time was coming over. It was kind of like a birthday. Rob actually might know this story. I had a birthday party and one of his buddies who I didn't actually know came surprisingly unannounced to my birthday party. We had a mutual friend and he stuck around and was hitting on my girlfriend all night. He was in your Don't Drink and Drive video and his name was
Craig Hamilton. So I had a sort of like a makeup birthday celebration after Craig Hamilton crashed my first one. And so my girlfriend came over, my parents were out of town, and my girlfriend at the time, she had like a 7 or 8 year old daughter. So she had the daughter that weekend, and so I knew we weren't going to be like making out on the couch, but I thought that if we watched like a scary movie, I could at least like, oh, I'm so scared, you know,
reach into the pocket.
Anyway, so that's exactly what I did. You know, I was like playing up how scared. Wrong DVD. I was playing up how scared I was. We rented The Shining, and I was playing it up, and like, oh, I jumped on her, like, buried my head into her pocket, and but you know, I genuinely did love the movie, and the one scene where I genuinely did jump is a scene that I talk about all the time, and nobody seems to know what I'm talking about. But there's a scene where Wendy is going up the stairs, and this is after the ghosts of the hotel have started to come to life a little bit. She's walking up the stairs and she turns and she looks into a hotel room off to the side. And what do you see but a man in a teddy bear suit giving a blowjob to another man in a tuxedo? And the man in the teddy bear suit turns and looks, and the man in the tuxedo leans and looks. And I was just like, holy fuck! And it was so out of left field. Like you're watching a horror movie, but there's a man in a teddy bear suit filleting a man in a tuxedo. Like, it was so out of left field. I want to know what Stanley Kubrick was smoking that inspired that scene, because that wasn't in the book that I remember. I was shocked when I read the book and how different it was, but then I realized that that's actually kind of a common theme with Stephen King. His books are almost unadaptable to a 20 or a 2-hour movie. But, you know, having said that, I am one of those that prefers Kubrick's adaptation of it. I do. You know, I understand, of course, that, you know, big lawn or hedge animals would have been very difficult to do at that time. And I don't think I would have wanted to see hedge creatures come to life. I really like what Kubrick did. I like everything about it. Scatman Crothers. Brilliant performance, genius performance. Shelley Duvall, God bless her, what she put up with on this film. Stanley Kubrick, the mad genius himself, the perfectionist mad genius. The hallway scene with the cranberry juice that's coming down through the elevator. Oh my Lord! There's and the performance of what's the young guy who plays Danny? His face, the catatonic face. Oh my God! I don't know what Kubrick did to get that performance out of that kid, but
I think it's George Lloyd or something. George Lloyd,
something like that.
I can't remember.
Lloyd. Oh no, I'm thinking.
Isn't it Danny Lloyd?
Danny Lloyd? Is it? It's something Lloyd, I think.
I think his name
Jake
is
Lloyd is Star Wars.
Yeah. His name is Danny Lloyd.
Danny Lloyd.
Danny
Okay.
Lloyd.
Yeah. He's 50 years old. Almost 50 years old now.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And you know, has anybody even mentioned this guy?
I love the behind the scenes footage of watching him get revved up to get into a scene. I think it's fantastic. And he's also so very chill, you know, just before he starts shooting. You know what I mean? I thought he'd be like a revved up madman, but he just kind of gets himself going and then does the scene and it's like, all right, so how was that? Was that really good? I'm like, it's not kind of the image that I had of Jack Nicholson, but yeah, he's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, anyway, I don't think I have anything to add to Dr. Sleep aside from what you guys. I love Ewan McGregor, and when I heard that he was playing Danny, I was very excited. I'm not so keen on Ewan McGregor doing an American accent, but that's a matter of that's a very, and it's also a very minor hair, you know. I like Dr. Sleep. I thought the real star of it was Rebecca Ferguson as Rose.
Oh, huge, great,
yeah,
fantastic,
truly a chilling villain.
Fantastic.
You know, I'm when it comes to sequels, I'm often falling on the side of, was it really a necessary story that you needed? And of course, no, it's not.
This one was.
But I don't think
exactly what Eric Wood said. It answers things you didn't know, and that's
but at the same time, if I'd gone my entire life without seeing Dr. Sleep, I could have died a happy man still.
Yeah, I think so too.
Sure.
I think that it's so good, and the way that they went about explaining the things, it didn't seem forced. It seemed natural. It seemed like, you know, a proper way of going about complimenting the original movie. It wasn't the
Star Wars sequel trilogy. It wasn't
right.
It wasn't the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, the exposition wasn't overdone. No. It really was a movie about addiction. And that's what's really interesting about the movie. That's exactly what it's about.
But it makes sense.
Yes, it does.
How could you not grow up an alcoholic when you when you went through what that kid went through?
And of course, King is writing from a knowing place when he talks about addiction.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry, I did have one more thing I wanted to add about this movie, but I totally lost it.
Okay, well, I gotta get going.
Okay, you get going.
But I want to just quickly give my runners up if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm only going to give a few. Okay. And I'm not going to mention any that have already been mentioned because, you know, it's redundant. I want to shout out for a movie called The Strangers, which I really, really enjoy. It was Liv Tyler in it, and she's got her daddy's pipes in this because she screams real good, and it's a schlocky kind of movie. Get Out is a movie that the first time I saw it, I didn't like it. The second time I saw it, I liked it a little better. And then I saw it a third time and actually really, really liked it. And I just think that is a very, very good movie. The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer was one that I very much enjoyed. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original, the crazy Donald Sutherland look at the end of the movie.
That's not the original. That's the remake.
Well, it's I'm
but it's good.
I know there's another one after. Yeah, it's very good. Drag Me to Hell is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoy it. A Bone Tomahawk was on there. There's a TV movie. I don't even know if it was a TV movie, but I remember it very well. And it was like an Exorcist knockoff. And it was called Audrey Rose. And it's something that I remember it very well. And it's very much like an Exorcist, almost like a knockoff. And I totally enjoyed it. And I mean, how can you not mention Halloween, which no one is even mentioning that? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's almost redundant to put it on the list. And just one last one that I will say that I saw in the last few years that I really like. It's a movie called It Follows. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done and a different premise, and it wasn't like a big scare thing and gore. It was just a psychological fuck up. Like, it was very cool. So there you go.
Wicked. Thanks, man.
Well,
you have a good night, buddy, and thanks for the topic idea.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
You know what? It was a pleasure to be on with both of you. I think we all had some cool picks, and it was a lot of fun.
We always have a good time.
Indeed.
Peace out, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, buddy.
Indeed. Oh, check the children. I want a stranger's calls. Check the children.
Oh, yeah.
That's classic. See ya.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
Ciao. Rob, do you got any runners up you want to talk about?
I do, but I am Catapon currently, so just give me a second.
Okay.
Over you go.
Catapon.
What was it was Cat's Eye? Was that one? Was that an anthology?
That was I believe so.
Yeah. And I think there was even a remake, an original and a remake situation with that.
All right. My runners up, in no particular order. Halloween 3.
10 more days till Halloween.
Yeah. David Cronenberg's The Fly.
Yes.
Back to Stephen King. I love The Dead Zone. It barely didn't make the list.
Wow.
Event Horizon.
Oh, great.
The CGI doesn't stand up, but there's some really great practical stuff in this that just chills you to the bone. And I saw that I saw actually that's probably the most times I saw that a record 5-6 times in the theater. The only reason why I didn't see it a 7th is because the projector broke down the night that we saw it. So the one that I wish Mead had been here to see. Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies.
I've heard of it.
Hilarious. But the guy who plays Lincoln is brilliant. Bill Obrist Jr. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant film.
Okay.
Sketchy. It's an asylum film, so you're kind of looking at sketchy effects because they shot it in 14 days. But at the same time, there's some really creepy stuff in this. Okay, a film that I know you guys may not know about, 3 Dead Trick-or-Treaters.
Nope, never heard of it.
It is actually a local film by a guy named Torin Langen.
Huh.
And the reason why I like it, well, one of my greatest fears is being buried alive.
Okay. Sure.
And like you're in a coffin, you wake up, you open your eyes, and all you're looking at the top of this coffin, or you're looking at the boards of your coffin.
Yeah.
And you know how the hell do you get out of here? Kind of thing. That shows up in this film. I also, one of the audio tracks features an interview that I did with Torin Torin Langen and Pete Schooley. Stephen Schooley, the composer, and we discussed the film and the score. So fantastic stuff. This will creep you out, and it's like I said, it's by a Kitchener guy. So
wow,
there you go.
Wicked.
And after where I went last night, which was to Evil Dead the musical, Army of Darkness. I love Army of Darkness.
So quotable.
My friend Adam dragged me to this film. I said, I don't want to see an Evil Dead movie. I don't want to see this. He says, watch it. Just go with me and watch it. And I'm like, okay. So by the end, I was howling. It was hilarious.
Oh God.
And I loved it. And yeah, I will say this again, shameless plug.
Yep.
If the tickets are still available for Evil Dead the musical at the Alpine Club in Kitchener, go see it. You will not be disappointed. It was great.
Chris thus mentions this Quentin Tarantino directed.
I've seen that one. Yeah,
Great episode.
and you also did Kill Bill, where Uma Thurman gets buried alive and punches her way out of the coffin.
I have a real tough time watching. I watched Kill Bill Part 2 recently, and I had a real tough time with that scene.
I hear you, buddy.
That's tough.
What do you got for runners up, Eric?
Hellraiser, mainly because, again, practical effects. There's a great transformation sequence in it that just freaks me out. But again, saw that film later on in life, and really impressed with how it holds up, and great Christopher Young score. Speaking of Evil Dead, I might be one of a few that really loves the remake.
Yeah,
I love that movie. It is so relentless. Again, practical effects. The whole sequence at the end, just when you think the movie is over, and then it starts raining blood, and I forgot what's her character's name. She has just these eyes, these piercing eyes, just full of fear, and she's running around, and she eventually gets her arm chopped off by the car, and then the chainsaw right into the head of the demon. It was just insane. But the cinematography is beautiful, and it feels like an old school 80s horror movie. And Roque Banos' score is iconic. He uses an air raid siren to signal the demons, and it's pretty awesome. Cool. Shaun of the Dead, one of my favorite horror comedies.
Also on my list.
It's just fantastic. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I will credit Toby Hooper this time. An incredible low budget horror movie that still freaks me out to this day. And then the one that I mentioned earlier that turned me off of horror movies when I was about 10 years old. It's a 1985 Italian horror film produced by Dario Argento, directed by Lamberto Bava, called Demons.
Oh, okay. That's not the one.
Really interesting premise. But there's a particular scene in it where the woman tries on this the silver mask, and she gets scratched on her cheek, and then that starts bugging her while she's watching this horror movie, and it all takes place in a movie theater. And she runs to the bathroom, and she's trying to clean it off, but then she realizes it starts pulsating. And then literally her cheek explodes into this green goo, and she transforms into a demon. And the makeup effects in this are terrifying. I look at pictures and gifs from this film. I still get the chills. And I saw this when I was 10 years old with my hockey team at a party that we'd organized. And it freaked me out so much. I literally ran out of the room like a chicken shit. Ran upstairs, called my parents, and told them to pick me up. And I couldn't deal with it. I was scared to death. And there's an incredible soundtrack too. Lots of heavy metal and rock and roll in it. It's really, really, really good. But it's my friend of mine, I told him this story, and he bought me the VHS for my birthday one year. I still have it, and I still haven't watched it. I am that frightened of this movie. Wow. And I have seen the transformation scene again, and it's still just, it does. I cannot get through it. And it's schlock. It's what it is, but it's just it's that low budget schlock that, you can just tell. It's like Halloween, it's like a group of people came together and they put everything into it, and it's just it does what it's supposed to do. And here I am, like a 45-year-old man, just still scared to death of this 1985 Italian horror movie. And but that's the one that ruined me for horror movies until I saw Poltergeist later on in my teenage years. So I think that's it for runners-ups. Okay, well, I've got a couple that haven't been mentioned. Nobody talked about anything Rob Zombie. I liked his first three movies: House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and the Halloween remake. I actually really liked the Halloween remake. I didn't like Jeepers Creepers, though. That's what I didn't like. What else do I have here? I mentioned Prometheus. I mentioned Alien.
Oh, here's one that didn't get mentioned. For all its Bruce Campbell wonderfulness, Bubba Hotep, the genre-bending Bubba Hotep.
That's right.
Wonderful
Forgotten about that
soundtrack, bizarre story, very funny. The whole Elvis meets mummies. Oh God, it was so bizarre. I love the Elvis conspiracy shit. Oh, so good. And Bruce Campbell as Elvis was, I mean, like, he didn't really try to imitate Elvis. He just did, basically he did Bruce Campbell doing Elvis. Loved Bubba Hotep. What else do we have here? That's about it. I mean, I grew up on a lot of these horror movies, but I don't remember many of them. I remember renting Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2. I remember that shock at the end of Friday the 13th Part 1 where Jason actually comes up out of the water. What's that, Rob?
No. I was just going to say, I thought you were going to say 2 because 2 got me more than 1.
That ending of 1 sticks with me.
Well, the ending of 2, and and it's spoilers on this one. I was watching it as a kid, probably 12 years old when it came out. For the very first time, my sister, her boyfriend at the time, and I were sitting downstairs watching this on VHS. I think they knew what was coming, but I didn't.
Okay.
And the scene gets nice and quiet. The doggy's there. It's all nice. And then Jason smashes through the window, and I'm like,
I do remember that very memorably. Yeah. Was he wearing? He didn't have the mask yet.
No,
right?
he
Like,
didn't have the mask
over
at that
his head or
time. Yeah.
something? Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Did we mention any werewolf movies
No.
on our list? Which is really weird. Are any of them scary? I mean, the only one I could really think of that I've like, man, that one was a pretty damn good horror movie. Was Ginger Snaps, not American Werewolf, Ginger Snaps. If you've never seen that one, check that one out. It's really, really, really good. But it's funny that's sort of like a subgenre that doesn't really frighten that often, right?
Yeah, you're
my
right.
mom once talked about seeing Wolfen, and she couldn't handle it. So she turned it off. She turned off the TV, started to go upstairs, and then she thought to herself, anything in my mind is going to be worse than what is actually on the screen. So she sat back down and continued to watch the rest of the movie, and she was right. But yeah, Wolfen was one. Trying to think of other Wolf. What the Anthony Hopkins.
Was that Wolfman?
Yeah, there was a Wolfman back then. I mean, of course, there's the Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman.
Yeah.
But
the video games you talk about Alien Isolation, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Another one, the Dead Space games. Don't do it. You'll never finish them.
Going back to my school days, we had a cracked version of the original Doom. We had Alien Doom, and it had a lot of Bill Paxton's dialogue mixed in. There's movement all over the place. There's movement all over the place. It was like you're going through all these really scary Giger-esque levels, and then you just hear from one of your speakers, there's movement all over the place. It's like, ah, shit.
I will say that the ping on the sensors from Aliens is a terrifying sound, and that really freaked me out when I first saw that movie as well. Yeah, and you're right, Rob. When you're talking about the sound of Alien, darn right, the sound design in that movie is incredible, and it's really a character in that film.
One more movie that I wanted to mention for my runners-up that didn't get mentioned is the one that terrified my sister so much that it like gave her nightmares, that she cannot watch it, she cannot look at anything to do with it. And I have to think it was the Werner Herzog version of Nosferatu, because it would have been playing on Super Channel in the early 80s. And I don't think they were playing the original Max Schreck Nosferatu back then, the Murnau. I don't think so. I'm thinking that just because of the time frame, it had to be the Herzog version. Whichever version it was, it scared my sister so much that she, like, you could say the word Nosferatu to her and it would just freak her right the fuck out. But I also really liked the what would you call it? A parody remake? The Shadows of the Vampire. It was great with Willem Dafoe. And it was really interesting and has one of my favorite lines where God, what's his name? The guy who's playing the director Murnau. What's his name? Help me out here.
Man.
Anyway, he says to him, why did you have to eat the leading lady? Why couldn't you have eaten the script girl? And Willem Dafoe goes, the script girl. I'll eat her later.
Malkovich.
Malkovich. Thank you.
Yes, Malkovich, you're right.
Yeah.
Did any of you really get into the slasher revival in the 90s? I mean, I thought Scream handled it really, really, really well.
I mean,
but
I
was
watched
there
those
anything
movies.
else that just thought, they really got that right? Or just it was overkill for me?
I never watched any of the Scream films, so I can't speak to that.
The Jennifer Love Hewitt, I Know What You Did Last Summer was pretty decent.
Yeah, and I think that was like
one.
this. Yeah.
Shit, there was one that I remember. It was kind of like during that whole teen phase when there were so many new actors, Katie Holmes, those kind of people. And there was one where it was a school movie and everybody from the school was getting like possessed.
Teaching Mrs. Tingle. That's one. That's Katie Holmes. But there's a urban legend.
The one I'm thinking of has, I think Ethan Embry was one of the guys that maybe. No. It was the dude that was in Terminator 3. What was his name?
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I'm
gonna have to do some Googling here. Terminator 3. I'll get to the movie. I bought it at one point. It was decent. His name was Nick Stahl.
Nick Stahl, that's
and
it.
The movie was called Disturbing Behavior.
Oh, Disturbing Behavior. That's right. Yeah.
I think. Was that the horror one? Yeah, high school, Katie Holmes. That sounds about right.
Yeah, that one went through. There's a really interesting documentary about that film, and they messed that one up. It was it should have turned out a lot better than what it eventually did.
Gotcha. Bruce Greenwood was in that. William Sadler was in that.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I think they cut that down to like under 90 minutes, and it was just a mess.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to start wrapping it up. I got, to be honest with you, I have some tacos, to eat. What was that? Dead again.
Yeah.
There you go. So, Rob, what do you got going on Visions in Sound tonight at midnight?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, while you were off doing something else, I can't remember. I mentioned that both Erik and I are going to be celebrating the 35th anniversary of Aliens.
Oh, right. You did mention that. Yes, 35.
On the show. But also be listening to Cinematic Sound for the various Halloween specials that have shown up, including mine.
Listen to Rob's. He always does an incredible Halloween show because there's a story. And I keep forgetting he's going to do that. But then once it kicks in, I'm like, yes, this is why we do radio. It's good radio.
Yes, I can vouch for
Check
that.
it out. Seriously, check it out. It's very, very good.
Nick Stahl is in The Walking Dead. I didn't know that. I know Nick Stahl kind of fell hard on his luck after Terminator 3. But wonderful stories tonight, especially hearing about like some of our first exposures to some of these films as we were younger. And, you know, we're all sort of in awe of the masters, but we also got some good sort of B-roll movies in there too. So I had a blast tonight. I got a lot of stuff that I want to kind of rewatch tonight. And I think Dr. Sleep is going to get a rewatch this weekend as well.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me tonight. And I hope to see you again for another list, another night. We'll go out on a song and we will do Oktoberfest Cheer by Max the Axe because we just got through the month of October.
Here we go.
That's the biggest connection I have. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
and
you.
Halloween.
Thank you for watching. Happy Halloween, everyone. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good night. Ciao.
Ciao.
Spy!